Anycubic have sent me a box. Judging by the weight, there is something inside. Regardless, I'm pretty happy. Carrying around boxes seems to be a popular thing of late. But before getting ahead of myself, let's take a step back, a time jump, if you may. Let's start with the dream of space travel. I think deep down many of us could confess to the fact that space is an alluring prospect, just out of reach for most. Be it longingly staring up at the moon or just really wanting to have a taste of Captain Haddock's smuggled space whiskey. The dream is real. As so happens, a spaceship would also be a rather cool terrain feature for Stargrave, the skirmish game by Osprey Games. Crews traveling through space searching for treasures of sorts. Landing on distant planets, well, that requires a lander, right? So when my neighbor one day casually passed the remark, "I'm gonna move out soon, do you want something 3D printed before I leave?" I jumped at the idea. Browsing the internet, pun intended, for spaceship designs that would suit, surprised at the relative lack of 28mm spaceship models that were not Star Wars or Battlestar Galactic-ish, I eventually found Outpost's Origins vehicle by the Dragon's Rest, a multiple part kit that can be used to build several different types of spaceships and other vehicles, for the mere sum of $24. Not too long after, I was sitting by my neighbor listening to talk about supports and printing techniques. This is a large piece. Resin cost would be pretty high, but all in all, getting a spaceship was a major priority. And after some time organizing, printing was commencing. Thrusters fired, so to speak. Only the supports failed. And then other things came in the way. And then one day my neighbor moved out. In a way, taking my dreams of space travel with him in a box labeled Anycubic Printer. I was, of course, promised the bits once he'd settled into the new house, but at about the same time I got contacted by Anycubic, wondering if I was interested in trying out 3D printing. My first thought was no, I can't have a resin printer at home, and I don't really have another spot where I could set up something resin-related safely and efficiently. As a parallel story, I have for quite some time now been planning a rather large terrain project, something I'll be working on this fall. The thought had struck me that a 3D printer would be very handy for this. I was in a way hoping to rely on friendly neighbors for that, but not sure if printing larger pieces would be worth the resin cost. And while browsing the Anycubic website, I realized, wait a minute, there's Filament Printers. And that, in the end, is why Anycubic sent me a box. Thank you. And yes, it does contain a filament printer. The Anycubic Vyper. Filament printers essentially melt plastic and print the melted plastic out in thin layers. The detail level is not as high as resin printers, and the thin layers are most often visible. The most common plastic used, though, is harmless, and the entire printing process is relieved of fumes and liquid plastics. Thus, I could put it in my office. For larger pieces, like spaceships or terrain, it is a vastly more economical solution, and detail is not, for me, a massive issue. Knowing nothing about filament printing means I have no reference information regarding the performance of this specific printer. For me, I assembled, plugged in, used the apparently very handy auto-leveling function, and printed the test print that came with the printer, an owl. The owl printed without any mishaps and is now part of my son's toy collection. I then just went ahead with spaceship manufacturing. There being a lot of bits in this kit, I figured it would be a good place to start. Printing bits, regarding the bits, try to improve bits if needed. Filament printing is a variable process, not only from printer to printer, but in regards to what plastic used and even room temperature and moisture. It quickly became evident that there are a lot of settings that can be made resulting in better or worse prints. Also, being such a mechanical process, the smallest variable, an inconsistency in the plastic or a minor printer mistake, can have the tendency to affect several layers of a print. Like trying to build a pyramid but with a round stone somewhere in the middle. Luckily, like with most things, there are a lot of people that actually enjoy this stuff, fiddling with settings. And the YouTube content is vast, so the learning curve is evident, but likewise is the opportunity to just use other people's expertise. Oh, and prints do take quite the time, depending on the settings, of course. During the largest print, with the most extended print time, I managed to go out to the country house and celebrate Midsummer, a pagan ritual based around pickled herring and dancing like frogs around a phallus symbol, and then return to see the printer just finishing. Using my actual prints as a learning curve is maybe not something for all. I can see the benefit of doing a ton of test prints, perfecting one's process before moving on to the real stuff, but I have some thoughts here. Our hobby is at times very much focused on perfection, saying things are not good enough, that there's always ways to get better or better tools to use, and that this is something very important. With painting, I can sometimes suffer from the need to display better results after each consecutive video. Also, looking at peers as a goal and not just admiring someone else's talent for what it is. In essence, there's nothing much wrong with this. Striving for individual perfection can be the motor that keeps us going, but at the same time, why waste materials and time on perfection instead of accepting the situation at hand and enjoying the moment? Some parts of my prints, not because of the printer, but because of my most probable uninformed fiddling with settings, came out a lot worse than others. On the other hand, some came out beautifully, and I had fun. Now, when this spaceship is assembled, painted, and on the table as a piece of terrain while I'm gaming, will my game be less fun just because areas of the legs of a very cool spaceship look kind of like they melted a bit? This is a rhetorical question, by the way. Same goes for the specifics of a printer like this. Now, don't get me wrong, I'd really like to have a resin printer when the situation allows it, for printing miniatures. But for large pieces like this, for terrain, I could probably print a hill, for Pete's sake. Is the relative perfection of a resin printer really more important than the vastly less expensive filament prints, the non-toxic plastic? The price point of filament printers, the fact that one can actually carve and manually bash this plastic real well and do very large prints with the durability one would want from terrain pieces. When there's a more detailed, perfected option available, sometimes we don't stop to regard the benefits of other options that might fit our individual purposes better. Now, regarding detail, apart from a few places that I covered with milliput to then sand down for a smooth surface, for this spaceship creation process, I actually adore the texture created by the printer. What would have been a totally flat surface now have a mechanical machine-made texture, and I'm actually kind of glad the resin supports failed a few weeks back. Not only do I want to figure out a way to paint this spaceship to actually enhance these textures, but also when further fiddling with printer settings, see if I can figure out ways to use these textures to my benefit on future prints. I've also realized I can print other things like painting handles or strange spare parts for the washing machine or pot holders. The possibilities are endless. In regards to this Anycubic Vyper, as previously stated, I have no prior experience with filament printers. So far, there has been no malfunction, no machine-based printing mishap, a very plug-and-play experience if one disregards the multitude of settings possible in the third-party slicer software. If filament printing has made you curious, I just want to mention, because of the heat generated, that filament printers do have fans that do produce noise. Nothing I'd recommend placing beside the bed or in your meditation room. Now that the filament fact has been presented, you'll be seeing more of a regular use of this printer in the future. I figured doing a video like this will save me from some presentations when printed bits all of a sudden start appearing in future terrain videos. For now, I'm just real glad to have my own spaceship creating machine, and I'll see you in space.